Zohran Mamdani and Donald Trump, they couldn't be more different in so many ways, but that's at first glance. One of them, of course, the bronze billionaire from Queens, his hair like spun sugar. He's a guy born with a gold telephone already in his hand, and whose idea of public service was once memorably described as self-service. The other, Mamdani, is a Ugandan Indian-American democratic socialist who lives in Astoria, Queens, who knocked off a political dynasty by beating Andrew Cuomo with very little more than a clipboard, a conviction, and a killer instinct for this new media moment. They are wildly different in so many ways, but they are also avatars of the same disruptive energy that has turned American politics into a choose-your-own reality streaming service. They are similar. Here's why. They both began as outsiders. Mamdani got elected to the state assembly in New York just 5 years ago. He'd never held public office before then. If he was known at all, people knew him as a housing activist and a rapper more than they thought of him as any sort of political force. Neither of them had paid the traditional dues usually required to win these big jobs. Both of them were told when they decided to enter the races they did that they were not serious contenders. And of course, both astonishingly won. Donald Trump the presidency, Mamdani the Democratic nomination for mayor here. And both won by harnessing movements that were bubbling and then exploded like volcanoes. They were arrayed against the status quo, and they fought for what they both described as the forgotten men and women of the working class. Now, look, it would be cheap to lump them together as just calling them populists, but there is also a shared talent for identifying what used to be called kitchen table issues. Trump, of course, with his carnivalesque language, gave voice to the white working class and working class voters in general, disillusioned by the trends, globalization, the devastation from opioid addiction, and the coastal sneering that so many Americans felt. Mamdani, on the other hand, he speaks up for the renters of Queens, the gig workers, the stressed parents, and the subway riders with too many delays and too few champions here in New York City or in our capital of Albany. Whenever Mamdani talks about housing as a human right, or he talks about transit justice, it lands for voters not as a theory, but as the basics: groceries, rent, asthma medication. So in that way, both Trump and Mamdani has mastered the art of the simple and sticky message. Trump talks about make America great again. Mamdani has a brand of democratic socialism that skips over the jargon. It heads straight to the people's gut. Both men possess what I call postmodern flair. They wink at the camera. They know they're in a show, and they make that clear, and they invite you, the viewer or the voter, to know it as well.